So, hello YouTube. Today I'm here with my cat Cornflakes, and we're going to show you the inside of the PiModem. As I speak, I'm uploading the video, the functional demonstration, and yeah, I just want to give a quick overview of the inside. So I've already opened up the modem. And this is what it looks like from the inside. And of course it's being inspected by Cornflakes. So you can see here is the serial connector, and the cable runs into here, which is the tiny little board that I've already shown before. It of course does not like to focus. I have another one of these boards here. These are just tiny little adapters that I made, and what's partially hidden down here is the orange Pi. It has USB, a Ethernet connector. These wires go to the speaker to provide audio output. Down here is the power connection. I made a separate little board for the LEDs to get them in the right position. This one is a blue LED I used for carrier detect, and it was much brighter than the other ones, so what I did was I put this white electric tape on it just to dim it down a little bit, which seemed easier than messing around with the resistor values and changing the currents and everything. So yeah, and down in there you can see there's one little chip that is directly yeah, you can kind of see it in there. That's just a driver for the LEDs, because back here these wires, they run around here and go to the chip, and these are basically the send and receive wires from the serial port, just connected to this chip. And what it does is it drives the LEDs without interfering with the serial data, because on some boards you can buy, they are the LEDs are directly connected, but the TTL output is really not so strong, and it's 3.3 volts logic, and that's really not enough for driving LEDs. So I used this separate chip, and just this one, the power LED, is connected directly to power, of course. The green one for the ready signal I could run directly from the GPIO. You can kinda see in there, if it would focus, you could see in there. Yeah, you can see these two lines of connections. That's the GPIO port, and yeah, I could drive the green LED directly from that, but these blue LEDs, they need a higher voltage, so you just can't drive them directly from a 3.3 volts GPIO. So that's running through this driver chip as well, because The driver chip runs on 5 volts. And this green PCB is basically just from the old modem that used to be in here before. I removed all the components except for these capacitors in here and the power button and the power jack. These are the only components left on the board. And I did this basically because, as you can see, these two holes that screws directly into the case, and I wanted it to be really stable for the power button and the power jack, because otherwise I would have to do some trickery to get it screwed right into place, and it was just easier that way. Just so the PCB used to be the whole width of the modem, and I just broke off the parts that are not needed and just left in place this part of the PCB so that it can be screwed in place and held in place really securely. And yeah, it's now basically just the power delivery. And yeah, that's almost it. I mean, it goes from the GPIO here. I run wires to the serial transceiver, and from there it goes to the port, and that's all there is to it. And that's one of the things why I chose the Orange Pi for this, because what's special about it compared to stuff like a Raspberry Pi or other single board computers is you can kind of see, maybe let me pull out the power connection and show you. Yeah, you can see this little golden connector, and that is where the antenna connects. And it doesn't come with this fancy antenna, it comes with a crappy one, but yeah, it has this external connection where you can attach an external antenna, and that's really nice if you want to make something, anything Wi-Fi like this. Because these antennas, they're really cheap. You can get them for like $5 on eBay, and you just connect it and you have a really good signal. And yeah, that was the main reason why I chose this one. It's also nice, the H2 Plus SoC in here, which is totally out of focus right now. There you can see it. That's a quad core that runs up to 1.2 gigahertz. Of course, we don't need that kind of performance by any stretch, and I have reduced the clock speed, so this one runs at a maximum of 912 megahertz. And I chose this because that is basically the turnover. If you go above 912 megahertz, it starts to deliver more voltage to the SoC, and that gets it really hot. So if you run it at the 1200 megahertz and full load, it gets really hot. And since it will be in this case with no fans and everything, yeah, we really don't want it to overheat. I've tested it. I've ran it for like over an hour, and it doesn't get to 55C. It gets to like 53 or something, which is totally fine. Yeah, so that's basically all there is to it. It's just an Orange Pi with some custom software to enable all the, because these The hardware flow control on the UART isn't enabled by default. I don't know if the UART is enabled by default even. So I had to enable that and then install some custom software. And yeah. What's also interesting is this micro USB connection. All these little single board computers have it, and it's used for power delivery. But on this one, it has additional functionality. If you plug it into your computer, it gets detected as a serial port, and you don't need any special cables. You just plug it in, and it shows up in your computer as a serial port, and you can use that serial port as a console to log into the Pi itself. So should you buy this kind of device and you ever really mess up the settings and you can't connect to it, like maybe you mess up the Wi-Fi and the network doesn't work, and then you mess up the configuration of the serial port and you can't connect to that as well, you can open it up and then use a standard micro USB cable that I don't have any handy right now, but you just plug it in there, and then it shows up as a serial port on your PC, and you can use PuTTY to connect to it and log in and change all your settings back. So now, before I put it back together, there's one thing I've got to do, because I just took a backup of the micro SD card, and that's just a generic little 4 GB micro SD card. Which is more than enough. The image itself was only like I think 1.2 GB, so there's still plenty of room free. And inserting the micro SD card is a bit tricky, because as you might be able to see in there, down in there underneath the speaker, there is the micro SD slot. So let me see if I can make it happen. So this is gonna be a bit tricky for me to get it so that you can actually see it. No, that's not gonna work. So yeah, you can kind of see the card in there. As I'm pushing it in. And it has one of these nice clicking connectors, so it's held in place. It's not like these where you just slot it in, but it actually clicks into place, and then it's secure and can't move away, which is also very nice. And yeah, that's the whole thing. As you can see down here, I drilled some holes, and I used like yeah, you can't really see them behind all these cables. Maybe this one. No, not really. But I used motherboard standoffs. Maybe yeah, you can see the gold little thingy down here. These are motherboard standoffs that would be used to mount a motherboard inside a PC. and I use these to screw the Orange Pi and the board in place. The LED board is just held in place with a whole lot of hot glue, which is really not going anywhere. And this board is going to be held in place by the screws of the case when I put it back together. The speaker, as you can see, I hot glued it to these capacitors and also to the power jack so that it doesn't wiggle around. And yeah, that's basically it. The other chip down here, this driver for the LEDs, I used super glue and just glued it to the bottom of the case. Yeah, this was kind of an afterthought. I didn't expect to need it at all. But yeah, that's just how it goes. I mean, the next iteration, if I build another one, I'll maybe make a bit bigger LED board and put it in there or something. Yeah, but it works like this. It works just perfectly. And yeah, if you want to have one of these, then just contact me and I'm gonna build one for you.